Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 11. Hope that you all had a good spring break. I was able to go to San Antonio, Texas for an international CEC conference, the Council for Exceptional Children, and it was wonderful. Wonderful to get some professional development and also some R&R. So I hope that each of you had a bit of a break as well. I wanted to give you an update on events for this week and some housekeeping information about the course. This week you'll read about causal comparative research, which builds on your quantitative research skills. Hopefully you found the correlational research chapter interesting, as well as the survey research chapter. And I know that you just submitted either that interview assignment or quiz 2, and Robert and I will catch up on our grading by the end of the week, by Saturday. So we'll get you feedback on those. And I think I have one other assignment to also get you feedback on from the prior week. So definitely we'll catch up on grading this week. So again, you will read Chapter 9, Causal Comparative Research, in your text, and also read the published article reprinted at the end of the chapter, comparing longitudinal academic achievement of full-day and half-day kindergarten students. In just a minute, I'll preview that article for you. And then later this evening, I will post an applied activity on causal comparative research, and that will serve as quiz 3. Also this week, we've combined writing workshop 1 and 2 over this week and next. You will prepare a draft narrative or expository writing. Don't get confused about narrative research. It's not narrative research, it's just how you write an academic paper. So expository writing of either your introduction to your paper. So you might want to check out and study in detail the final paper assignment rubrics that I posted at week 10, the quantitative proposal or the qualitative proposal. Let's look at one of those. Here's the quantitative proposal. And so you'll notice, and also there are 2 chapters that talk about writing a research proposal and also writing up research. I believe they're chapter 3 and 21 in your text. So take a look at those if you're struggling with the format of a research proposal. So you'll definitely have a title. In quantitative research, you name the independent and dependent variables in the title, as opposed to qualitative research, which are, for example, for whom the bell tolls, for whom the school bell tolls, and life history of a sneaky kid. Those are more creative, intriguing titles, in my opinion. So you follow the format of the tradition that you are emulating for your research proposal. And then you'll have an introduction or problem statement, and that introduces the reader to the area that you're studying and that you're proposing your research study in. So you provide some background, contextual information in narrative form, and you also have citations in this section. You create the case or the need for your proposed study and what it will contribute to the literature. Remember, quality research builds on, either replicates or extends our learning in some way in a particular field. And you conclude that section with your research questions, your hypothesis or hypotheses. And I'll walk you through the lit review in the current causal comparative study. That's the published example for this week's reading in just a minute to illustrate that. And then your more traditional lit review. And as you know, you've already been working on your literature review. We start with that section just because for people who are new to research, it's the most challenging section to write, but you will perhaps use some of the literature you identified in your initial lit review, in your introduction, and then some. Generally, you use more empirical studies that have been done that are similar to yours or in a line of research that informs your question in your lit review, and then your methods section, which we'll get to a little bit later in the semester. So for this first writing workshop, you're going to write either a section of your introduction or problem statement or your lit review. If you're proposing a qualitative study, again, this one's quantitative, be sure to look at that assignment rubric. So getting back to this week then, again, I will post this quiz 3 this evening. Keep in mind that we'll drop one quiz, so if you've done the first 2 quizzes and you'd like to take a break on this one, that's fine. You will prepare a draft of your problem statement or your lit review. Problem statement, again, is the same as the introduction to your paper. And you will send it to peers in your small group. Robert is going to open this forum for us and give you directions on how to participate in this particular peer review and writing workshop. So he should have that open by tomorrow. So it's not current right now, but rest assured he's working on it. And you have, I believe, until Sunday to post your work, and then you will receive the work of 2 other classmates, at least 2 other classmates, and we'll provide a format for you to critique their writing, and then you'll have a chance to have a threaded discussion with the peers in your writing group. So, and again, you'll have till Sunday for that, and then the discussion will be open all of next week. So the only thing due this week will be quiz 3, which is an application of causal comparative research. Causal comparative research is different than correlational research in that whereas in correlational research you're comparing different variables and identifying a relationship, either positive or negative or no relationship between those variables. In causal comparative designs, you're beginning to ask difference questions. If you go back to that chart I showed you early on, you're looking at differences between groups, as we will with quasi-experimental and experimental designs. So in this particular study, comparing longitudinal academic and achievement of full-day and half-day kindergarten students, there is essentially one group of students that are divided into a couple groups naturally. So again, it's an attribute independent variable, so it's not manipulated by the experimenters. And this is a retrospective causal comparative study, so they examined data that they had access to in the Poudre School District in Fort Collins, Colorado. This was written by some colleagues of mine when I was at Colorado State University, and they were part of a research and evaluation unit for the local school district there. And this study was requested by the administration in the school district. So one of the ways that educational research is used and requested in a very practical way by current educational situations. So Jenny, or Dr. Wolgemuth, and her colleagues identified some 300, actually I think one group was 283 students, and the other was 2 in the low 200s. So they identified 489 students altogether who had attended either full-day kindergarten or half-day kindergarten programs. And they looked at their early kindergarten pre-assessments and post-assessment data, as well as achievement data in reading and math on the Colorado State Assessment Program that had been done in first grade, second grade, and I believe fourth grade. So they were wondering what the long-term effects were on whether or not there were gains or differences in these children's achievement scores based on whether they attended the full day or half day kindergarten program, and whether or not those gains were sustained over time, whether or not there were differences long term in kids' achievement as a result of having participated in full day programs. And of course, their hypothesis, this is interesting. At the beginning of the study, they talk about the inconclusiveness in the research literature on the longitudinal academic achievement of full day kindergarten versus half day kindergarten students. So they didn't pose a priori research hypotheses. Instead, they developed research questions around the major main effects and interactions of the kindergarten class variable, full day versus half day, and these covariates, age and initial ability, and the dependent variables, the kindergarten through fifth grade reading and math achievement scores on the Colorado State Assessment Program, the CSAP, similar to the MONCAS. I'd like you to take a good look at the way they designed their introduction and various strands of their literature review, from sort of a broad focus on all the strands of research that are implicated or that inform their particular research questions. Are there differential outcomes, and are they sustained over time for students who attend full-day kindergarten versus half-day kindergarten programs? So they have an introduction, then they look at the literature on researchers who have studied length of school day and its impact on achievement. They look at the literature on parent choice and as a rationale for the increase in the growth of full-day kindergartens and student achievement. And then they also look at longitudinal student achievement. Then they provide a study rationale and pose their research questions, and they give you a rationale for why they pose their research questions. And they also, in the section on longitudinal student achievement, that's where they identify the gap in the literature that their particular study will contribute to. There had been some studies done that looked at a little bit on long-term effectiveness of full-day kindergarten, but they said that those studies were less available and more inconsistent, and that they had been criticized for design flaws and methodological flaws in the research. And so they're attempting, through this article, to fill in that gap and design a more rigorous causal comparative study to answer the question of longitudinal achievement as a result of full-day kindergarten. They do an excellent job of, again, providing the rationale for the study. They talk in detail about the participants, what the intervention was, how they had access to the data, what data they used to measure pre and post kindergarten and first, second, third, fourth, etc. reading and math achievement. They also give you a rationale for the analyses in the results section. Jenny's a great statistician and talks about the different statistical tests that she used and selected to analyze the data that she collected, and which tests met which assumptions and why she ended up running separate univariate ANCOVAs with particular Bonferroni adjustments after the fact. So when you run ANCOVAs, to tease out the differences between the groups, you need to run what are called post hoc statistical tests, and she selected the Bonferroni post hoc test. So I realize that's a bit beyond our current discussion, but this is a very well done study, and the tables make it very clear where the statistically significant effects were. You'll be interested to look at the results and see whether or not there's a difference long term in students' achievement, depending on whether they attended full day kindergarten or not. And Jenny also conducted follow-up interviews with the teachers who were involved in full day and half day kindergarten programs, which is interesting, how she analyzes that, and then pay attention to her discussion. So this is an interesting, and this is a great example of retrospective causal comparative research, and I think you'll enjoy reading it. And again, this evening I'll post for you an application assignment that will serve as quiz 3 that includes features of causal comparative designs. And finally, we will be catching up on our grading, so look for that by the end of the week. And you'll have a chance to, until Sunday, work on either your introduction or your lit review, and then share that with people in your small peer writing group, which we have yet to assign, but we will over the next 24 hours. So check back. Have a great week.